From the studios of KENW on the campus of Eastern New Mexico University, it's You Should Know, featuring the people and events of Eastern New Mexico and West Texas.
Welcome to You Should Know. I'm your host, Evelyn Ledbetter, and today my guest is Erinn Burch. She is the Executive Director of the United Way, which is actually, it has a little longer title than that, right?
Right, United Way of Eastern New Mexico.
Right. Erinn, thanks for joining me this morning. It's
Good morning.
Really nice to have you here. Right, I didn't realize that this didn't serve just Roosevelt and Curry County. It actually has a larger footprint.
Yeah, United Way of Eastern New Mexico. In the last 4 years, we've added Quay County, Tucumcari and Logan, San Juan, and now Debaca County.
So you're stretched over, New Mexico is the 5th largest state. And so when you have these big counties, that's a lot of ground to cover.
It is. And United Way is, that local vehicle for communities to make a difference where they live. And, like Debaca County had never had a United Way serving them. And so we are helping them mobilize their resources and, get them back in use for their community and bring other resources to their community. Quay County had a long history of a small, totally volunteer-run United Way that just was getting older and tireder and having a harder time. And so they asked us to merge with them several years ago and keep United Way alive. and try to build on what that history had been.
Sure. Erinn, tell me about you. I don't know a lot about your background. Is this always been home, or I'm guessing maybe not?
So I'm an Air Force brat, so lived all over the place. We was born in Alabama, lived in Michigan, stationed 3 places in Texas. Then we lived in Germany. In Germany, I don't know, on my Facebook page, I called Germany my hometown because that's where I really, sort of felt my most comfortable. And then Louisiana, and graduated from high school in Bossier, Louisiana.
Oh, well, so you have had just a ton of cultural experiences. Even just from Louisiana to other states in the U.S. and Germany, of course, and seen lots of needs everywhere.
Yeah.
So then did you decide to go into the Air Force, or what happened? You were your dad was military, or was it your mom?
It was my dad. And
I didn't want to assume that.
Right. You never know. So, graduating from high school, you're looking for where you're going to go next, and got a small scholarship from ENMU. And so I had just been overwhelmed with my options. And so when that scholarship came in, I was like, well, that's where I want to go. And what was very interesting is, visiting ENMU the first time to kind of get things laid out to go to college, I realized I'd been coming to Portales my whole life for family reunions because my maiden name is Simnecker, and I have great aunts and uncles and cousins in this area. And so Portales had been like a home base, but when your family bundles you in the car for that family reunion, they don't say, we're going to Portales. They just say, we're going to the family reunion. So I had never really put it all together.
That this was where some connection and roots were.
So I went to Eastern, graduated in 92, had met my husband here, and we got married in 93, lived in Albuquerque. Then we moved to the DC area and lived there for 6 years and enjoyed living out there. But after 9/11, we had our first child, and we were like, time to move back home a little bit. And so, all of my family is out in the West. My parents retired to Albuquerque. My sister lives in California. And it was like, why are we on the East Coast?
Let's get a little bit closer
let's
to
get a little
people.
Closer.
Oh, so how did your history come about getting started with United Way?
Well, we had moved, back to this area, and was staying at home with my oldest, and just, I don't know. So literally picked up the newspaper one day and saw the position and said, I think I could do that. When we were in DC, I had sort of found a niche and a desire to work in nonprofits. And I had worked out there for the National Recreation and Park Association. And so when the executive director position came open at United Way and I saw it, I was like, I think I could do that. And I like to joke that the board and I both got very lucky, right?
There you
Because
go.
I got lucky because they were very supportive of me and let me do a lot of things and learn a lot of things. And they got lucky because I didn't really have a strong background that, spoke
Mhm.
to this, but I think it's worked out. I've been here, this is my 23rd year. So,
So kind of in the swing with things at this point. Well, United Way does a tremendous amount of work in the community. So tell me can you just name some of the different projects that you do? I know food insecurity is something that United Way focuses on a lot. So,
so United Way, what's great about United Way is that we aren't a one cause
mhm,
organization. And so historically, like our bread and butter is to support local nonprofits that are doing great work in the community, kind of broadly across the spectrum of need. So food insecurity is always there. So
right.
we've supported the food bank in our area for a long, long time. Um, those grants, though, they cover everything from, domestic violence and uh, preventing sexual assault, serving
Mhm.
survivors, to elder nutrition, elder care. Um, we fund right now, one of our grant partners is the Special Olympics.
Very
We
nice.
support Girl Scouts with our grants. Um, 2 Meals on Wheels programs in Curry and Roosevelt. Um, so really, when I say, we're not a one cause organization,
Hmm.
it's because, we want the organizations on the ground that families turn to every
Sure.
day to be there, to be
Right.
able to keep doing that good job
Right.
and keep supporting our local families. Um, so we have some partnerships with food
Hmm.
and probably 4 of our organizations are food, but food insecurity per se, is not our focus. Our focus really is just on,
Overall needs.
yeah, well, community strength, right?
Okay.
Because these needs are interwoven, right?
Right.
We support Habitat for Humanity
Hmm.
because housing is core to so much. Um, if you don't, if you're unsure about where you're
Wow.
going to sleep, if you're unsure about your housing situation, is the power going to stay on?
How can
Is
you have
the
any stability in your life
Yeah.
or move forward if you don't even have the basic need of shelter?
Well, and some we have plenty of folks in our area that don't have decent, stable housing.
Hmm.
Like they may be living someplace, but like, repair needs are not being met. They're struggling to stay safe in their home, right? And that shelter isn't always providing for them in the way that we all need our shelter to
Sure.
provide for us. So these insecurities, this combination, food insecurity, housing insecurity, lack of transportation, lack of
Mhm.
job access, all kinds of things. They're, it's so interwoven. Um, and that's why here recently we've started working with a strategy called the 100% community. And
I'm not familiar with that, so
yeah, so the 100% community is um, it's a research-based model that says that when our communities will have the 10 basic services that families need, then we can have families that thrive.
right.
Okay, and so hopefully I can get all 10. So you've got the surviving uh, services, housing,
Hmm.
food, transportation, medical, dental care, mental, behavioral health care, right?
Right.
These are core services that when families struggle to get their needs met there, all kinds of things
Sure.
fall off the track, right?
Right.
And when things aren't readily available, then a small problem can really, get entrenched.
Mm-hmm.
So then you have the thriving services, which are early childhood learning, right? Great daycare, right?
Right.
Preschool. Youth mentoring for that next phase of life, right? All of our young people need those protective factors
Right. Right.
of stable adults in their life, lending them stability. Community schools, right? Schools that have resources to meet our students and families' needs. Job training, that's a huge thing that is sometimes lacking. We demand that our schools provide it, actually, right? And so many folks get out of school without really good, solid training
Sure.
toward something that's sustainable,
Right.
some working, career that can sustain a family. And then finally, what is the fifth one?
Oh, we're good.
Sorry, I got myself distracted. But anyway, there's a fifth one.
Just the transportation and getting people to their jobs and different things. But there's so many factors that play into that. And,
Yeah.
I know originally it was pretty much the churches that stepped in and took care of the people in need. Other organizations, I think that burden had gotten to a point, but partnering with United Way is definitely an option to do that. And a lot of businesses, it's unique. A lot of people will allow United Way to come in and talk to their employees. And that's actually how I met you years back, was you had came in, and then again here at Eastern the same way. And I, I guess it's a trustworthy organization, and it's going back to our counties, right? So that's a big deal.
Absolutely. And so, yeah, United Way, historically, we have those trusted business relationships. And it does come back to the local, right?
Right.
Because there's strength in our local communities when we give back and it helps our neighbors.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many places we can give. There's so many, especially now, donations, donor organizations, charitable organizations are everywhere. But the local network of services that we all depend on every day, that as a business person, your employees depend on every
Right.
day.
Right.
And I think that's every once in a while you get a shock that shows you how much that's true. But even when you don't see it, you don't know who's visiting a food pantry.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know who is having some, like some of our organizations help people on their worst days,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
When there's domestic violence,
Right.
right? When there's sexual assault or sexual abuse, right? And our coworkers, our friends and family, they could be going through something that we have no inkling about,
Sure.
because those are significantly private, right? And so yeah.
Well, just to be to a point to make it comfortable where people feel okay coming in and asking for help, that's a difficult step
Right.
to take. And I know with my history of work in finance, payroll and things like that, so many families, they're basically one paycheck away from being out of a house all the time. And that stress on the parents and the trickle down to the children is so difficult. So, housing needs, you do some rental assistance, right, with different organizations?
Well, so at our United Way, we back in 2007, we started doing providing 211 services. And over the years of answering 211, which 211 is a human service referral
Mhm.
call. So when you dial 211 and we answer it, we're going to point you in the direction of helpful organizations that can provide services for the need that you're calling about. Well, when we were answering those calls, it became really obvious that financial assistance was really slim on the ground, really just kind of barely there. So we began a fund in 2013 called the Game Changers Fund. And so at United Way, we provide rent assistance and a utility assistance as that money is available. It's a very small pot of money that people, when they give, they can dedicate their giving to the Game Changer Fund.
Mhm.
But for example, this year already, we've used our Game Changer Fund to help over 300 families. And that's with, rent assistance, utility assistance, a little bit. We're mostly focused on rent currently, but also with like paying for birth certificates, paying for driver's license,
Just some
transportation
basic
passes.
needs you have to even have employment.
To have employment, to apply for housing, to get that job. Like you can't show up to your first day of a job without ID. So that Game Changer Fund allows us to assist people in that transitional moment of like, can I get this job? Can I get into that affordable housing? Can I keep my lights on?
Right.
Trying to change that game in that moment. So yeah, we've been trying to help with that gap that for the last 11 years.
Lots of years to help. I know for me, something that's always dear to my heart was there's a backpack for kiddos, and it's food insecurity. It's a food backpack, right?
Yeah.
And will you tell us a little bit? I mean, you know more about it than I do, but I always designate Roosevelt County and the food backpacks for the kids.
Yeah. So I don't know how many years ago it was, but back when the Food Bank of Eastern New Mexico's director was Nancy Taylor, they wanted to pilot the food backpack program for kids. And the concept there is that teachers and staff at schools see who arrives Monday morning, who is, what students obviously didn't really eat very well over the weekend, right?
Sure.
And so by utilizing schools' knowledge of who is really struggling, they could supply backpacks on Fridays. And backpacks is, that's like the sexy version of it, but it's really just a bag of food, a bag of kid-friendly food. So things with pop tops, things that could be heated up, but maybe don't have to be heated up.
That they can actually fix on their own.
They can fix on their own. And so the schools, so again, I don't remember how many years ago this was, but so they put in a request to pilot this program. We supported that, and it's been going strong ever since. And man, it's got to be 10 or 15 years.
We had a superintendent here in our school system, Randy Fowler, and I'd asked him one time what made him decide whether to call school off or not. He said, it's really difficult, Evelyn, because I know there's a lot of children that they rely on those 2 meals a day of breakfast and lunch. And without that, these kids are going to be hungry, or they may be in a house that they don't have heat all through the weekend, or those days that are off for cold days and snow. And he said, boy, it just tugs on my heart. So this is something that is a big need in the community.
It's the truth, right? And that's why, pairing our community resources with schools and partnering there is so critical because, school is a safe haven for a lot of kids. Yeah. So that backpack program is
Well, tell me about
needed.
this. The thought of even getting those backpacks ready to go out every week, you have to rely on volunteers like crazy.
Right.
You probably always have a need for that, more of them?
So absolutely. So, and the food bank, so United Way of Eastern New Mexico, back in 2015, we created a website called volunteerenm.org. And that is a volunteer portal for our area. It allows nonprofits to use it for free to post volunteer needs and track the people who sign up and even track those hours. It's a great resource. The food bank uses it a lot. They have, of course, ongoing weekly needs. They have their food distributions at their food bank site, both in Clovis and in Portales. Plus, they have, rural food sites. And then the backpack program requires that weekly upkeep and delivery to school districts, and they really lean in on some volunteers with that. So I invite everyone to check out volunteerenm.org. You'll find organizations posting volunteer needs there. And I encourage you, though, to check out the list of agencies, because some organizations, we're all just trying to keep up, honestly. And if you happen to see an organization on there that you like their mission and you want to know more, or you think you have something to offer them, I'd reach out to them. Like, even if they don't have a volunteer listing at the time, right? Let that agency list also kind of be a view into the organizational landscape of our community, because you can get active with an organization even if they're not posting that specific daily thing that you could do for them.
Well, and I think we all have a passion where we're drawn to help a certain, for me, the little ones or the elderly is always my soft spots. But you can pick something that is a good fit for you and get involved in that.
Absolutely.
Because how big is your staff?
Well, we actually, through our, we have a really good staff right now. I think I have 6 on staff. So our core United Way function staff is, I've got 3 folks who do 211. 2 of them are part-time. 2 of them are Spanish speakers. And I've got an office manager who's part-time. And I have my fundraiser campaign person who's full-time. And so myself, that's like our core United Way staff. And then with our, we have a HRSA community grant. That's a Human Resources Services and Administration grant. It's a federal grant to support behavioral health and mental health programs in the 4-county area. So I've got 2 more employees who work under that.
And that's pretty new, right?
It's, we've just finished our 2nd year.
Okay.
And then we've got our 100% community work, which one of those employees does partial work under that. And we're about to hire some more because we have another grant for HUD, where we've just been approved to become a housing provider for young adults 18 to 25 in our 4-county area. And we'll be hiring a caseworker and a support worker to help those clients, once we get them in and housed, help them learn all the things they need to learn to maintain housing, find sustainable employment, get to the point where they can be self-sufficient and provide for themselves fully. So our staff size is sounds bigger than it feels on certain days.
Do you get any government funding other than through grants? It's all donations and grants.
Right. So if we don't write for a grant and get funded to do very specific things under that grant, there's no
funding for your wages or anything else.
Yeah. And then all of our core programming, our grants to organizations, our 211, Game Changers, that's local donations only.
Okay.
And
well, and I know the cool thing, when you go into businesses, you actually have some options of just doing a payroll deduction. So you sign up on that form and your business collects that and takes it out of your check. And it's a simple way to donate versus taking the time to write a check or, that sort of thing. And it just comes right out of your paycheck. Yeah.
So payroll deduction as a donation vehicle for people, number one, it's super easy, right? And it's so easy to give as much as you want. And that sounds silly because, of course, anytime you can give as much as you want.
Sure. But you can set it up according to your budget.
Yeah. When you write a check, like the timing has to be right. Like what's in your checking account today has to be right. What you're thinking, what bills are due tomorrow, what's the timing of it. And so when you do payroll deduction, it's super easy to say, oh, $5 a paycheck, like that's all year long. I can do that, right? It doesn't come down to, what does my checking account look like today?
Right.
And so that
it's already out of there and and it's taken care of.
Yeah. And
that's really great.
So we have been putting it out there and encouraging people to think about recurring donations, even if they're not giving through payroll, because our workplace campaigns nationwide are changing, and some companies that used to offer them don't anymore and things like that. But we have people still who want to give, right? And so if you were to visit our website, unitedwayenm.org, and you went to our donation page, you'd see that you still have an option to do recurring. Like you could give a monthly gift, right? So again, you could give $10 a month or $50 a month all year long and make a bigger difference.
We're getting kind of short on time, but again, that website, United Way, ENM, so easternnewmexico.org.
Correct.
And then there's a ton of information on your website to learn more about volunteering and donating and maybe having you come in and talk to your business and some things like that.
Absolutely.
So I know you guys do tremendous work in the community, and I'm really happy to support this. I know you have a board, and it's all community members that are involved. So Erinn, really appreciate everything that you do for our community and all of your hard work.
Thank you for having me on today.
Thank you for coming in. We appreciate it. And to all of you watching, thank you. We will see you next time. Cheers.